Welcome to Pipeline 101 friends. This is first lecture of this series. We are going to talk about pipeline. What is a pipeline in a common man's perspective first, and then we will move towards further details. We encounter large diameter pipelines mounted on concrete blocks whenever we are traveling on the countryside or outskirts of the pipeline, outskirts of the city, and we see the pipelines appear on the side of the road with some strange mountings on them, and then after some distance we find that the pipelines disappear in the ground. So these are typically the water pipelines which are transporting the potable water or drinking water from the main source pumping stations to the cities and towns, or sometimes across the states. So these are large diameter water distribution network pipelines. Similarly, we also see many times the small pipeline network being constructed on the roadsides, which is for cooking gas. It is called LPG gas supply lines. Nowadays in India, piped gas network is becoming very popular. All the societies and all the towns are being installed with pipe gas supply, so that we don't have to handle these cylinders, and all the truck transportation is avoided. So these are the typical pipelines a common man encounters in his life, day-to-day life. This is just to explain you about what is a pipeline. If you are a common man, we know that we are engineers and we are going to further talk about the design aspects of the oil and gas, petroleum, petrochemical, and export pipelines. But this is just the introduction for easy understanding. Whenever we are seeing in the manholes on the main highways, or the street roads, streets, and then the main roads of the cities, in the cities, these manholes are also connected connected to the sewage or the wastewater pipelines, which are routed below the roads. And these are the different types of pipelines which are part of our day-to-day life and very important part of our life. And they are normally built and operated by the municipal corporation of the local towns and state governments, and they become a very important part, as I said, of our life. Now let us see in a photograph the water pipelines which I mentioned to you. Once you see these photographs, you will understand that yes, we have seen it somewhere, and it will click to your memory, and then you will understand what I'm trying to talk about. Once we see that, then we'll move towards the oil and gas exploration, which is going to be our the main subject of this series. So let us see this photograph first. So this is these are some of the photographs of the water pipelines which you all must have seen while traveling across the cities or outskirts mainly. We see some kind of pipelines which are coming above the ground, and then with some strange mountings like this, some large diameter lines, some concrete blocks. Typically, sometimes we see such a bunch of pipelines routed together, and they are just going parallel to the road. So these are typical examples of water pipelines or drinking water supply pipelines and distribution network. So with these pictures, I believe you must have understood that yes, somewhere you have seen them, and many times these kind of roads are also named with them. Some roads you will always typically find that they are named as pipeline road. So that's how important are these pipelines to our day-to-day life. So with this said, we'll move to the typical oil and gas exploration related things. So let us see what is oil and gas exploration and how it is done, and what are the different things about oil and gas exploration. So I'm going to show you this picture. With this picture, it will become very clear to you. I will explain to you that how the oil and gas exploration is done, and the pipelines related to oil and gas, how they are installed and designed, and what is the importance of them. So we'll first try to understand how the oil and gas exploration is done, and then we'll move towards design part. So as you know, oil and gas is very critical fluid. It's high pressure, volatile. It can create major accident hazards, explosion hazards, fire hazards. So these fields are normally far away from the populated community, and they are normally reserved areas in which the oil and gas exploration happens, and these wells are drilled. These wells are kind of similar to the water wells which you must have seen, which are drilled in the ground. I'm talking about the onshore facility on the ground. These wells are drilled, and then instead of water, basically oil and gas is explored through this, and this well will bring the oil and gas to the surface. And you can understand that they are normally far away from the towns or populated areas. So from these far away fields, this oil and gas has to be gathered and brought together to some location where the basic treatment can be done, and then the treated oil and gas has to be then further distributed. So there are different means to do this transportation, but the easiest mean and the most common mean is pipeline. So let us see this picture, in which I will try to explain you about the typical oil and gas gathering station, exploration facility, or we call it a oil and gas field, which is developed. So see here, this is yellow color is for the oil pipelines, oil field, and blue is for the gas field. These are the gas wells and these are the oil wells. Oil wells, a typical symbolic representation is done with beam pump, but not necessarily all the oil wells require beam pump. But this is like a beam pump. It is typically called beam pump, which is continuously moving up and down, and then basically trying to take the oil from the downhole subsurface to the surface. Similarly, gas is normally very high pressure system. So once you drill the well in gas field, gas reserve we call it, high pressure gas comes out to the surface, and we need to install some special valves which are called choke valves to control the pressure and reduce the pressure to the practical levels, and then we can transport it to the pipelines. So we can see that in this gas field, the gas is gathered or gas is produced in this kind of wells, explored through these wells. Oil is explored and taken to the surface through these wells, and then we need to transport that gas and transport the oil to gas processing plant and oil processing plant. So to bring it from the from various well distributed in the field to the central plant location, obviously you will need a network of pipelines, so which are shown here. So you need gas and oil pipeline network through which these fluids can be collected together, transported to the central gas processing facility, and once again, once you separate the impurities and water and some liquids which are coming along with the gas, for example, are processed in the plant, then that gas once again from this plant has to be supplied further to the distribution network. Okay, so for that also the pipeline is the easiest and the best way. So you see that in this picture the pipeline network is also shown, which is then taking the gas from the processing gas treatment plant, gas processing facility, to the gas distribution system, which is having meters, and then further distribution to various power plants and cities and states all along the country. Similarly, oil is also gathered and transported through these pipelines network to the oil processing plant. In oil, there is also some associated gas, with some impurities and water and some sand particles. So all these is separated in this oil processing plant. The separated gas is taken back to the gas processing plant. So normally they are close to each other, or you will find them as twins. And then the oil, separated oil, is then transported further with the pipeline to the for the further use. Either it will be treated further in the oil refinery, where the various fuels, types of fuels, will be extracted from the soil, and then the use of fuels. Yeah. And sometimes some countries which are exporting the crude oil itself, which are called oil exporting countries, oil exporters, typically Middle East, and some fields in Russia, USA, Venezuela. So these are all oil exporters. So these countries even directly export the crude oil through the ships across the sea to various countries, whoever are the importers. India, China, Japan are the famous importers. America, because their crude oil consumption use is very high. The populated countries require more fuel, so industrialization is very high. So they need all this crude oil. Then they treat it in the refinery, make different types of fuels, different products what they want, and then they use them. So this is the typical oil and gas gathering system what we see. You all can imagine that even though we are trying to develop different types of non-conventional energy sources in today's world, still the main source of energy and the fuel used for various automobile and transportation requirements for most of the majority of the countries is still oil and gas. So crude oil and natural gas is still one of the most dependable kind of a fluid, hydrocarbon fluid, that we are still trying to explore and use it further. In which, and for doing all these things, pipeline is a backbone. So it cannot be neglected. So pipeline network makes the country, gives any country major advantage. The more the pipeline network is available across the country, it gives quick means of transporting the fluids, natural gas, for the power plants, for the usage, to various communities very fast. So we are going to see in part 2 of this pipeline 101 about what are the different types of means of transportation are available, and why the pipeline wins in most of them. So hope you find this quite interesting, and with this very common philosophy of the pipeline, we will move towards the further details, and then slowly we will explore the design aspects of the pipeline in this series further. Hope you enjoyed so far.